nation, same tribulation, worldwide oppression.
Hello, I'm John Dennison. We've got some things to talk about. Today it's going to be about the future of our democracy here in America. If you look at the political situation in our country right now, and right now we are heating up toward the 2016 election season, particularly the presidential elections, and within the two main parties, Democrats and Republicans, you'll see that the candidates who are leading in the polls right now, and we're about 4 months out from the first primaries, the candidates leading the polls, Bernie Sanders on the Democratic side and Donald Trump on the Republican side, though he's followed closely by a couple of other outside candidates, you'll see that there seems to be a schism between the people and the government. Because those candidates that are getting traction are the outsiders. They're the ones talking about change. They're talking about what's wrong with our system and what needs to be done to fix it. And maybe some of them don't have the right ideas for you or for some of the rest of us and what direction they want to go, but they're trying to breathe in some fresh air, bringing new perspectives into what's happening in our country and in the affairs of our world. But I must say that I'm concerned for our democracy. I'm concerned for our democracy and for a number of reasons, and not just because of the continual aggrandizement of power that has taken place over the course of our history within the federal government, that it has seized and grabbed more and more power, and all of the laws and decisions and actions are meant to make it stronger and emaciate the states and their ability to control their own affairs, and the people themselves and their ability to make changes in Washington. And there are a number of reasons for this. The first is that the people are easily manipulated. We are, I won't say herded like sheep, but sheep or cattle. But we're manipulated into voting for one of these two parties because of things that are going on within us and in our lives. They have found ways to push our buttons, to to stoke the fires of our fears and dangle the carrots of our desires in front of us until we give them our vote and give them a semblance of trust that they're going to be leading us through whatever problems of the day that we're facing. But we really know that they aren't. Most of the time when we vote, we're voting because of some predisposition of philosophy that we've picked up over our lifetimes, whether that's from our own experiences or passed on by our parents or our peers or however it happens. We tend to gravitate toward a set of views, and when we look for candidates that we're going to spit back some of those views to us, so that and promise us things that are going to make our lives better or make our country better, or at least in the view that we think that they will happen. But unfortunately, we're all different. If there's anything we know about America, is we truly are a melting pot, and maybe not everybody melts in and is absorbed and becomes part of the prevailing culture, but they still keep some of their views and their perspectives. And because of that, we have many, many, many different views. We all see things differently, and we're always fighting because we all want to make sure our way is the way that gets promoted and enacted and carried forward by our leadership. And they use this to get to get our votes. They play this card by tweaking our desires and reminding us we should be very, very afraid of all the things in the world that could hurt us, or all the things that this other party might do that might hurt us or parts of our constituency, without really thinking of the rest of the people in the country. Somehow we've got to find a way to come together and move beyond these differences. But we can't do this because our system is set up with this polarity of where there is a conflict between these two mainstream parties of Democrats and Republicans. I think most Americans are aware that there seems to be a problem developing because of this. Most of the parties seem to have about 30% core followers. So we've got 30% core Democrats, 30% core Republicans, and then that other 40% that's bigger than either one of them, but it's not quite a majority. Or maybe it is, because that's what LBJ used to say, was talk about the silent majority. This group that is not a core group of one side or the other can see that these parties are playing these games, and they're just locked in battle so much that they don't care about anything but winning. It's because they all seem to be addicted to power, to this power that's been aggrandized by this federal government that they want to take and they want to use for their own purposes, to pass their own laws and their own agendas. And it seems really good when they tell us these things. But when we stop and we really look at what's happening, that system has been corrupted. It's been corrupted by the very economic system that we have in place, capitalism. Where capitalism is all about profit, is about getting more for our efforts than what we spend so that it makes it worthwhile to continuing to grow. And it has fueled the advances of society, particularly over these last 200 years since the Industrial Revolution. But it's come with tremendous hardships. I don't want to get into the capitalist side of things, but I want you to understand that it is this idea of, we'll call them, they're not industrialists anymore because it's far more than just an industry. We'll call them these corporate individuals. And corporations have nothing to do with it because that's just a form of business that allows them to draw in more money in order to do more of what they're trying to accomplish. But these profiteers are out to enhance their own situations, rightfully so. See absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's within the rules of the system that we have. But unfortunately, some of them are willing, and not only willing, but do use the money that they have acquired or are in the process of acquiring their business to stack the deck in their favor. And one of the things that happens is it starts corrupting our system. And we see this where our leadership is so beholden to those who give them the money that they lose track of what it's all about. That they're there to serve the people, and not just the people of their constituencies. They're there to serve the people of the entire nation, or at least within their districts and their states and the interests there. But we've set up a system where those people can not only receive monies from these financiers that are giving them, that are putting it in their pockets behind the scenes, but they're also able to trade votes with each other, basically to sell out their people and their standards and their principles and the things that they were put there for, in order to do what they think is expedient to get things done. But the rule in Washington is that getting things done requires you to be there a long period of time, because the new ones that come in, particularly in Congress, have absolutely no ability to do anything. They're just votes to support their party line. Now, sometimes enough new blood comes in that they start making waves, like the Tea Party and conservatives coming in a few years ago started changing the manner in which the Republican leadership was responding. But in reality, this corruption is not a matter of corruption within the system itself, in terms of being illegal within the system. The system that has been created, that they have created, and that has been handed down to us and perpetuated from generation to generation, is one where it's okay to receive this money. It's okay to get these benefits, and they pretend that they have no obligations. These people have no influence on it, and it's okay for them to turn around and do things to advance their interests and trade off their votes and do things that would otherwise be corrupt if not for the rules that they in themselves have enacted that say it's okay. That's the way this game is played. Politics in America. Interests and agendas are at the forefront of everything. And it's all because of this addiction to power. The power that has been aggrandized in this central government and all the lower levels of government beneath it. We have created a political class that feeds upon us, the people. And it's not going to change until we, the people, change. We have to diffuse these triggers within us. We have to see within ourselves the things the buttons that they're trying to push, and make it so that they can't do that anymore, or at least to make it so that we lift ourselves above our own personal needs and interests to look at and say, well, what is best for the future that we're trying to create? And I'm not talking about the policy of the moment. I'm talking about the future, the tomorrow that we want to live in. I think that most people would agree that what we want is peace and the freedom to carve out lives that work for us. But within the system that we have, this economic system, the system of governance where there's this political battles going on that are used to control the reins of power, and all of the various people that feed upon that, whether it's upon those in leadership or the ones that are the staffers, or they're the people that work in all the various different arms of government, they all have this idea of what it is that they're supposed to do for their good, for the good of the country, the interests of the country. But it's not just the interests of the country, it's the interests of the people that the country serves. That's why our election right now is being led by the outsiders, because people want change. They recognize that the system isn't working. And this is a very, very dangerous time for our democracy, because it's testing our ability to move beyond our own biases and our own prejudices and our own wants and desires and our fears, to get to a place where we can see things a little more clearly and to say and find some common vision of where we're trying to go. Now the two sides seem to pretend that they're all trying to work for the same thing, the betterment of our country, yet and that they disagree only upon how to get there. And let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say maybe they are. But I believe that the way the system is constructed, it's going to be impossible for them to do that, because they are both feeding at the trough of the vast power and money that comes with their efforts. We, the people, have to find a way to change our system. We have to change it fundamentally. We cannot go on the way we're going and expect that 2, 3, 4, 5 generations from now, our grandchildren and great-grandchildren are going to enjoy freedom as we know it. And we don't enjoy freedom the way that our grandparents knew it. Because what's happening in our government is that, in our society, is that we have this myth that the Republicans are out here trying to promote freedom and business, and the Democrats have this myth that they're out here trying to advance the interests of the people. the common person. And yeah, some of them are, and they make some good arguments on both sides. But why is it that we can't take the good arguments on both sides and figure out a way to work them together? The reason is because of this corrupting influence of money and power. There are a lot of suggestions about constitutional amendments and other methods to accomplish this. But to be honest with you, I have my doubts that they're going to be successful. I don't believe that we can muster enough votes at any level in order to achieve change. Because to do that, we have to enroll the Congress as well as the state legislators, or else call individual state constitutional conventions in order to accomplish this. And the state legislators are just as corrupt as the federal ones. Now, these people up there in office are going to say, "Oh, well, I'm not corrupt." No, you're not corrupt from a perspective of playing within the rules. The system itself is corrupt. The rules are broken because they permit you to ignore your own sense of right and wrong. Is it the right thing to be able to be influenced by someone else because they help you get elected? Is it the right thing to vote for a party platform or a particular bill or program because it's going to get you more votes? Is it the right thing to support going to war against other peoples in the world because they threaten American interests? Again, we the people have to say, well, what are our American interests? I was raised on the idea that it was truth, justice, and the American way. I mean, that was what Superman was all about. Well, and I thought it was what we were about. Freedom, integrity, character. But we don't see that in our governments. We don't see that much at any level. Yes, there are many people out there that do have it, and I don't mean to disparage all of them. It's just that the way the system is operating, that it appears that they are, or that those who are participating are in there. So I call upon those who are in there, in the government, in any form, to start thinking about doing the right thing. Yet the rules that they put in place are stacked against them. They're stacked. Look what Obama's been doing to whistleblowers. He's had more prosecutions against whistleblowers under the Espionage Act than had ever been done in our history. Because they don't want the people to know what they're doing. They don't want the people to question them. They don't want the people to limit their powers or their ability to move forward. I personally have my doubts whether any of the outside candidates are going to be able to impact the change that we want. But the problem is, if they are brought in, it's going to be like what happened with Obama. Obama came in on this big wave of change. He was a change. I don't know what it was, change you could count on or whatever it was. But he was supposed to be the change candidate. Some change we got when he took hundreds of millions of dollars from Wall Street, and you can see from his policies that he's not exactly turning the system on its head. There are some things he's tried to change. Good for him. The other things he's tried to change that haven't worked, well, it's worth trying. I don't endorse everything Obama tried to do. I prefer a much more central approach where we come together and let the extremes do what they're going to do, but the people in the center, the silent majority, stands together and speaks up for what it wants. But I think the system is so corrupted and is so powerful that the temptation to corrupt it is almost beyond the ability of any one person or a group of people to resist. It's just calling out to them, saying, use me, take me. Use this power to do good. But in trying to do good, it gets twisted, and people are eroded. The powers of the people are pushed aside. And I fear that if we keep trying to bring in these change candidates, the people are going to become disillusioned. And ultimately they're going to turn to somebody who is much more charismatic and promises to fix all their problems and to use this great power for their good. Maybe they will. But what they'll probably end up doing is grabbing more power. This country is founded on the principle of freedom from oppression. Yet we have oppressed ourselves by creating a centralized power base and allowing them to fight over it, and then use it to rule us with whatever manner they feel, because we won't stand up and do anything about it. You know that the system we have isn't working the way it should be. It's got so much promise and so much possibility. But to get there, we've got to get back to a place inside where we all know what the right thing is, and we stand up for it. But when we stand up for what we think is the right thing, and someone else stands up for the opposite because they also think it's the right thing, we owe it to ourselves to listen to them, and they to us, so we can figure out how we can get where we want to go together. If you look around at what's happening in our world, it's splintering in all these different groups, and they're all at war with each other. And it's starting here in the United States as well. We saw it in Ferguson. We see it in our inner cities. We see it in our politics. We see it in our financial system. It's just one big free-for-all. And who's going to be the last man standing? I hope it's us, the people. We're the ones who have the power to bring about change, but the only way we can bring about change is to change us first, so they can't keep pushing our buttons and manipulating us to allow them to keep playing their games of power. Until we make our stand for what we know is right, and what was right is not what they're doing. Until we make our stand to throw all the bums out and reform the entire system, it isn't going to happen. Can we do it within the bounds of the Constitution? Certainly. But it's going to take a tremendous willpower, a will that we don't have right now. We have to find the will to right the ship of state. Otherwise, we're going to devolve into chaos, and that central government is going to seize even more power. And the police powers are going to be turned upon the people. And we're going to see real oppression. The democracy that we know may not be in the future. We've already got to carry car identification cards in forms of our driver's licenses. They've already got us so that we can't pass between borders without their permission. There are so many things that they're doing that are not in the interest of the people. I call upon you to listen to that voice inside of you when you think about these issues and say, is this right? Listen to the candidates. Judge them not with your mind and with what you hear, but judge them with your heart. Do they have the kind of heart that you want for someone in office? Do they have the willpower to stand up to the powers that be? Do they have the ability to change the system? If the ones that you want that are supposedly the outsiders that are coming in to clean house and do all this, don't have that ability, then maybe this system cannot stand. And we need to start thinking about doing something else. I certainly hope I'm wrong, and that you can do something about it. I pray that you do. God bless you indeed. Go with love.
At the same situation, same tribulation, worldwide oppression.